So this is my honest review on Fortune Builders, the 3-day program. First, a little disclaimer: the scope of my knowledge on real estate is very limited. I read 2 books on real estate, and I listened to about 4 to 6 hours of podcasts and webinars, and I have no experience. So I was going into the program with a clear mind. I've also never been to any real estate seminars, and I've done no research on Fortune Builders prior to attending the seminar. So first things first, I came to a free 1 or 2 hour seminar expecting a little bit of real estate info and a sales pitch for an actual program at the end. And I wanted to go to a bigger program. They did a sales pitch. I signed up. It was $200. I was happy with it. When I arrived for the 3-day event, it started really slow. The instructor, his name was, he was telling us that he's been in the real estate business for many years, and at this point he's very wealthy. However, he didn't disclose any numbers. He only does this as a hobby, and this is a way for him to give back to the people. Ali introduced other instructors that were sitting in the back and mentioned that they have another program called Mastery, which was very expensive. It was an investment, $30,000 to $50,000 for, I think, a 12-week program. And he proceeded to teach the class, or should I say, teach the class. Each day, class starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 6:30 to 7 p.m. with 1 hour break. So that's about a 9-hour class. Lee talked a lot about motivation. A lot. Then he would say something about real estate and then go off on a random tangent, such as the difference between education and implementation. He would go really in depth, like definition of the words and what they mean and why it's so important to know the difference. He would engage the audience to discuss in groups for like 2 minutes the difference about the two and how it can affect our family and why it's so important. Then he would make the crowd share. He would give somebody a mic and they would share their, wisdom. Then he would come back and repeat everything he said about that again. Then he would go on another random tangent, such as the difference between strategy and plan or something like that. He would repeat the whole process again. It was really painful. These tangents lasted for like hours before he would give us another relevant piece of real estate information, which would last like 10 to 20 minutes. In between these cycles, he would throw in the idea of mastery in a very gentle manner, just to warm up the crowd. These 2 to 3 hour cycles of 2 hours of bullshit, 15 minutes of good information, and a small pitch about mastery program were now super predictable. Then he would slightly increase the intensity of the sales pitch. He would still do the random 2 hours of bullshit, incorporating the mastery into that, then give like 15 minutes of good information, but now showing a process through their proprietary software that can be only accessed by the mastery students, followed by now a more aggressive pitch. This is all day 1. On day 2, sales pitch now lasted for hours, and at that point I just left. I couldn't deal with it. I ran out of patience. Everything they did on day 2 came right back to mastery. They had subliminal messages. They now had an extra screen in the middle of the stage that would just say mastery on it. They gave every person in the room homework on day 1, which is to fill out the mastery application. Even if you did not have $30,000 to $50,000 for the program, you still were recommended to fill out the application and go through the interview, because you also had to qualify for the program. So they're creating that illusion that it's really difficult to get into that program, so you almost want to sign up just to get approved. While Lee was doing his BS cycles on day 2, they started the interview process outside the room, 8 people at a time. Well, that's how many instructors were there, and that's why they were there. The whole thing was 3 days long because they had to take their time and work the crowd, brainwash and interview every person. The whole thing was really predatory. Lee would keep repeating the $30,000 to $50,000 for the education. It is a lot of money, but it's the last thing for them. They don't really care about the money. They just want to help. And if you didn't have the money, then they would figure something out. Or you can just put the thing on the credit cards. He spoke about how to fund your investments on credit cards, and now connected it to the investing into your education and funding it with credit cards. What really pissed me off though is all the lies. The instructor said that he's really wealthy and that he does this as a hobby. So you're telling me that a $30,000 to $50,000 program that you're trying to sell is your hobby, and you're doing this just to give back? This is not your job, and you're traveling all over the United States doing seminars away from your family, trying to sell. That's the way to give back? That's a load of bullshit. However, with all that being said, the program does have some good information on real estate. You just have to be willing to sift through hours and hours of bullshit to get to some relevant piece of information. You could probably learn some of that information in a couple free webinars on YouTube in under a day. So I don't know how good or bad the mastery program is. Maybe it's phenomenal, but I assume that it's shit. And here's why. If a program truly is great, instead of trying to sell it to gullible people for $30,000 to $50,000, you can hire those people, train those people, put them out in the field, have them make the millions of dollars that you're telling them that they're going to make with the program, and split the profits. That way you make a lot more money, as opposed to flying out 9 instructors with loads of equipment, booking hotels, venues, spending money on marketing for 1-hour class to convince them to come to a 3-day class, to convince them to come to a 12-month class. It just doesn't add up. So my verdict, it's a 3-day predatory sales pitch with about 1 to 2 hours of solid information. And you're just doing this to give back? That's a load of bullshit.